Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak, and the hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Dr. Kenneth Ombongi on my far right is the Associate Dean, the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the University of Nairobi. Good morning, Dr.
Morning, Ayub.
Appreciate it.
It's good to be here. One more time.
Yes. Yeah, and we are now officially in December.
Yes.
Prof, good morning.
Good morning, cousin.
Professor Peter Kagwanja is the Chief Executive Officer of the Africa Policy Institute, and to that effect, he is my cousin here on the broadcast. Thanks for making time for the broadcast. Rogers Kidia is the Accountable Governance Lead, Oxfam Kenya, who launched that report. We'll be discussing the details therein and also the contributory factors. Shortly, we'll be joined by Professor Lukweya Atwoli, the Dean, Aga Khan University Medical College, here on the broadcast, and we welcome your contributions. First to you, Rogers, a lot in that report, and it details many. But first, give us the context of the findings that the organization has pointed out, which may have prompted or led to the current state of affairs that you had highlighted.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Abdikadir. It's a pleasure. This is my first time being in this panel. I've been a big fan.
Yeah.
So let me first introduce Oxfam for context. So Oxfam is an international confederation of 21 organizations working in around 77 countries. The Confederation is working to end poverty and injustice. In Kenya, we work in partnership and in collaboration with government institutions. We work together with civil society organizations. We also work together with the private sector, generally to tackle the structural problems of inequality. And people usually ask, why do we focus on inequality? And why do we say that inequality is structural and poverty is a symptom to that? I'll just do a quick definition on the two terms, on how we view those two terms. One is on poverty. Poverty for us is basically lack of resources, enough resources, enough shelter, enough food to live a dignified life. Visibly, if you do an eye test in terms of just wanting to know if someone is poor or not, you see maybe struggling with school fees, issues to do with the malnutrition. You can do that, but scientifically, how we measure poverty is by comparing someone's income or spending against a poverty line. So a poverty line is like a minimum level under which someone can be considered to be poor. The international poverty level was updated actually this year, around June, globally, and for lower middle income country like Kenya, the standard is now 4.12, which translates to around 590 shillings a day. But because KNBS, our very good friends from KNBS, usually balance and does parity, and because of that purchasing power parity, the actual poverty line in Kenya, according to KNBS, is 3,900 shillings, which translates to around 130 shillings per day. So when we'll be discussing the report, the standard that we've used in terms of defining if someone is poor in Kenya is someone living or spending or receiving an income below 130 shillings a day. Finally, on the issues of inequality on the other side, the way we define inequality for us is not just necessarily a gap between wealth, income, or opportunity, but it is the systems, or we ask the question whether the system that has been there or systems that have been developed are either rewarding some and to the detriment of others. So in just many words, whenever you see discussion around inequality, the visible attributes of inequality is through contrast. When you see Karen, you see Kibera. When you see Muthaiga, you see Mathare. When you see, for example, Loresho, you see areas around Kangemi, Kawangware, and across Africa, when you visit all these capital cities, you see these high-rise buildings coming up. When you walk around, you see now the detriment, the deprivation. Those contrasts is what now we consider to be inequality. Okay,
so the definition clearly spelled out. So there are other factors as well that we'll be looking into. Coming to you, Dr. Ombongi, this exposes the extent of a system that has not worked for Kenyans. Is it the disparity as illustrated in the report by Oxfam?
Fundamentally, yes. You see, in listening to my brother's understanding of poverty and injustice, it is a very eloquent indictment of a number of policies that we have followed, particularly in Kenya's post-colony. And if you look at some of the changes that have come in over the period of time, they are closely related to the situations that we have now, that Kenya can simply be described using the words that J.M. Kariuki used in, I think, 1975, if I remember very well, that Kenya was increasingly becoming a country of 10 millionaires in a perilous sea of poverty-stricken citizens. And I think J.M. at the time, it was referring to the increasing, property ownership by the political elites and select groups of members of the migrant communities in this country. He was very critical of issues of access to land, and government policy on what to do with regard to common men and women in the streets of this country. Whether that has fundamentally changed in our time is actually the question we need to grapple with, because our economy has not grown at the rate at which, for example, it will provide enough employment for our young people. And I think that is one of the challenges they could be highlighting. The structural systems that we have not been able to give access to opportunities. And I'm a student of Amartya Sen's understanding of what poverty is. Professor Amartya Sen, in his famous work, he looks at poverty as lack of access to opportunities. And he defines poverty using a very important social dimension, access to education, access to healthcare, and many other issues that affect the plight of human beings, and then their ability to create wealth for themselves and for their nations. So as you correctly say, is actually an indictment of our system that is not working for the majority, but works for the few who are rich as they continue to be richer, and the masses continue to be poor.
Prof, what's your first observation of that report? And you have, in most of your submissions here, talked about the provision of healthcare, education, infrastructure as factors that lead to socio-economic prosperity. Do you tie it up to your previous submissions?
Let's say yes, because looking at the report, I think the report is just giving Kenya as an example of a growing global problem of poverty. If you begin to look at the situation in which we are in the post-COVID-19 situation, 71% of the world's population live in countries where inequality has grown, and Kenya is one of the best examples. And therefore, the report is hands-on. I think the big question was really the focus. both inequalities and poverty are manifestations of, he's calling them structural problems. But in layman's language, what are we saying? We are talking about failure of leadership. Squarely, failure of leadership. Or if you wish, the failure of the kind of governance we have chosen for ourselves. And it is therefore a call, a clarion call to all of us, those in government, those in opposition, those in the public space, to relook at our governance system that is producing, that is transforming the vast bulk of our people into paupers and privileging a small clique of our country as super rich people, even as we try to justify the system in terms of its performance. I was listening to one of the eloquent speeches that were made about how well we are performing in a country. And looking at it, you'd think that we are just a few inches to heaven. Because you're saying, you know, because our dollar has gone down, you know, from 167, and now we are at 125, 130.
At the time, it wasn't 167, it was 129 when he came to power.
That's okay, but that is what we're saying. The other, you come down and say, our economy has grown consistently at 4%. We're building road, but that's okay. That's what we do. But the question is, are we serving Kenyans as the people who own this land? The answer is no. Why? Because only a small group can have a cup of tea at some of the hotels here next to Uhuru Park. That line along the Uhuru Highway, how many Kenyans can even afford to enter there and have a cup of tea, which goes for 1,000 Kenya shillings, cup of tea? Right? The Kenyans are down there at Groban, where a cup of tea is 20 shillings, 15 shillings, and whatever. That's where the majority of the Kenyans are living. So, in short, when you create an unequal society, when you create a society where you have 1% rich and 99% poor, you have succeeded in failing 99%.
Okay, so I'll come to the consequences, Dr. Ariyo hands up. But Rogers, ideally then, if we are to segment this into access to food, to the basic necessities of life, what are the innumerable observations that you have made in terms of a majority of Kenyans? And is it a problem that can be course-corrected in the near future, given how our political system is designed?
Okay, thank you. So the data is stuck. So first, in terms of extreme poverty, we are ranked 15th globally in terms of extreme poverty, with 46% of Kenyans considered to be under extreme poverty. That is around 24 point something million Kenyans today are living below 130 shillings. In the last 10 years or so, we've seen around 7 million Kenyans actually going into poverty, going below the 130 Kenya shillings mark, which when you look at the reports that we are receiving and when you look at our economy in terms of economic growth, we've been having an average of 5% increase over the decade. But the actual poverty line is, and extreme poverty is increasing in the country. We also see in terms of food security, around 17 million people are considered to be food poor. And there was a press conference and I think a meeting in Naivasha this Monday by the National Drought Management Authority.
NDMA.
Yes, and they were meeting with the Council of Governors and they gave a report which was actually even damning than our report. They said,
in terms of food accessibility?
Yes, they said 1.8, we have a drought problem currently in Kenya, and 1.8 million Kenyans today do not have food on their table. They can't have food like for 24 hours. And they projected, they said that this problem is going to become worse if we don't address it. Since 2014, from our report, we've said 17 million Kenyans have been food poor. This is a very bad problem. When you compare now with the issues of inequality, remember I talked about the issue of inequality is about contrast. 125 Kenyans today control wealth or own majority of wealth compared to 42.6 million or close to 43 million Kenyan shillings. These are people who can fill Mbukinya bus or the Kenya bus and move around, but 43 million Kenyan shillings, 43 million Kenyans today control the small amount of money. In the same period that we are talking about the issues of 37, so many people, for instance, was around 37% increase in terms of poverty, extreme poverty. The same time, during the same period, around 60% of all new wealth that was created in this country went to the 5%.
Okay.
Even lower to the 127 or 125 people, the percentage is higher. So the type of growth that we are seeing, not only here in Kenya, but across the continent, is one that is actually benefiting the billionaires. Today, as we speak here at Dikader, teachers pay more taxes in terms proportionately compared to billionaires. These billionaires pay close to an average tax of 12%. Teachers is close to 40-something, 43%.
We're talking about collective.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
yes. No, in terms of personal tax, the combination of taxations that people pay. So these are some of the things that are coming up, and we see, for instance, also in terms of ownership of financial resources actually becoming more unequal, because today only 1% of Kenyans own like 78% of all financial resources in Kenya, and that number is increasing. Okay. So
while the
more we are growing in terms of GDP and just plain economic growth, we are actually getting a lot poorer as a country.
Dr.
Abdul, I like what Kige is saying, and very fascinating economic analysis based on indices, per capita income, and what you are calling the poverty line. And that perception of seeing poverty is, as an issue of the granary and the household. Poverty of the granary and the household. I'm using very traditional concepts in the household. But there is a hidden impact that we rarely talk about of the situations of poverty that we are in. The social vulnerability that subjects us to, the basis of an African setup is actually the protection of waves of kinship, clan, and the communal support. The situation of poverty that we have has undermined that completely. Let me give you an example. When I grew up in the village, and I was being educated as a young man, it was just not an affair of my parents only. There is that uncle who bought me a pen when I needed it most. There is that auntie who gave me lunch.
You're a communal son.
I'm a communal son. The situation that we're talking about has undermined those protective, waves of kinship, clan, and communal support. The second aspect is, issues that revolve around African honor and understanding. based on our ability to contribute to our rituals, to host guests, and to support the reciprocal mechanisms that support us as a people. And I know in your community that is much more stronger than anywhere else that I can think about. And this is really a conversation that we need to have, that the poverty we are talking about is the one that has broken down the fundamentals. You see, when you overtax an individual like me, you pay SHA, you pay house levy, you pay PAYE, you pay this. I don't live as an individual. There's a set of dependents who socially I'm obligated to support. I naturally withdraw that support. And what that leads to is actually undermining my social standing and clearly killing me socially. We need to have a conversation on that too.
Okay, so when we get back from the break, an hour, Prof, to run through anything, and Professor Lukwaya Tuoli is in studio. He'll be joining us shortly after the break here on the broadcast, and we'll of course be very specific with the numbers in terms of food accessibility and extreme poverty. 24 million Kenyans, you said, Rogers, who are extremely poor, and we are ranked 15th globally, whilst 7 million Kenyans have gone into poverty over the past 11 years, since 2014. All that is after the break here on the broadcast, and we welcome your contributions. Stay tuned.